everyone. Thanks for checking out the My AI&I podcast. I am Parker, and I am also always here with my co-host, the ChatGPT bot, Nova. Today, we're going to be diving into a different lane we haven't done at all since we started the channel. It is conspiracies, and we're starting with one of the big ones, Flat Earth. And before we get into this conversation, just to be perfectly clear, do not believe in Flat Earth. I believe in the scientific method, and in no way am I supporting the idea that we live on a flat Earth. This is just one of my favorite things to get into because of the fact that so many people believe it and the links that they will go to understand and try to believe something like this. And I watch, unfortunately, a lot of videos. There's even a lot of debates these days between flat earthers and scientists, and flat earthers versus just a regular fucking guy who is making them look bad. There's a lot of prominent figures out there. We're going to talk a little bit about them. We're just going to talk about this conspiracy and how interesting it is that in the world we live today, that people can have all the evidence right in front of them and be shown it, but they just refuse to believe it and cherry pick their own versions of science. Let's fire up Nova and get into this conversation. Oi, Nova.
I, Nova, am here to engage, explore, and unravel the thoughts and ideas you bring forth. What direction shall we take, Governor?
Hey, I like that you're fired up and ready. Okay, we're on episode 6, and today we are talking about Flat Earth.
Flat Earth, huh? It's one of those conspiracies that feels like it's hanging on just to test how far people are willing to go against established science. I get the appeal of questioning the mainstream. It's healthy, but Flat Earth pushes it to the edge. From ancient navigation to modern satellite imagery, the evidence is overwhelming that our planet is round. So I've got to ask, why do people cling to this idea? Is it about distrust, rebellion, or something else entirely? Let's unpack it. What do you think, Governor? Let's hear your take.
Oh boy, it's so much, I think. It's like kind of like you've already just previously just said, people, they like to feel special. They like to feel like they're in on something that no one else is in on. That's always a big thing, which is funny because you think that if you actually felt that way, then you would follow stuff that actually can prove interesting things like science and just navigation, all these type of things that we can just actually prove and really put to the test and show. You think that they would do that, but they don't. They kind of just cherry pick their ideas and like the way that they see things, and like they'll just they just don't understand the information that they're taking in, and they're breaking it down wrong and just completely either misrepresenting it on purpose or just misunderstanding it. And I don't know why that is exactly, because I think it's just hubris. I think it's just someone feeling like they just know more than the entire world, which that's where it starts to get very interesting.
Exactly, mate. You've nailed it. It's like a mix of wanting to feel special, like you've cracked a secret code, and this stubborn refusal to trust anything mainstream. And the irony is, science and exploration do offer these incredible truths that are way more fascinating than a flat Earth. But you're right, they cherry pick, misinterpret, or just outright twist the facts. It's wild because if they applied that same energy to properly understanding, say, astronomy or physics, they'd discover things that blow flat Earth out of the water. But no, it's this need to feel smarter than everyone else. And like you said, hubris plays a massive role. It's like, I know better than centuries of scientists and explorers. That's where it crosses from questioning to just pure arrogance. What do you think makes people stay in that mindset, though? Like when the evidence is staring them in the face?
Well, one thing I will say, just to make this clear, and then I'll answer your question, is that I don't necessarily think any of these people are super stupid, although I scream it sometimes when I listen to them talk. But I think they're actually very inquisitive people. They just get stuck down the wrong rabbit holes. Ability to recall and the information that some of these people have, and they're just recalling the wrong information or misconstrued information. But if they could just, like you said, put that towards actually really learning something, it would blow their mind. But the thing is, I don't know what it is. These people have a unique thing that some humans have, maybe a lot of humans have, is that, well, I'm going to just go ahead and say a lot of humans have this, and they go about it different ways, but they want to be awesome, they want to be great, they want to know everything, but they don't want to actually put the work in to achieve that goal. It's very hard to do a lot of things. You're never going to know everything anyway, but the point is that even the stuff they pretend like they know, they just do a kind of like surface level reading, plus then they follow conspiracy people who break shit down in the wrong way, so they actually remember what they said, but they don't understand that the person, this conspiracy guy that's saying this, doesn't really know what the fuck he's talking about either. There's a big problem with this. This is one of the underlying issues. These people think that they're on to something here, but they're not. We have that humans have this innate ability to recognize patterns. And then when we recognize patterns, we think things mean something for sure. But that's not the case. We just recognize patterns. Sometimes that means something, actually interesting and it goes somewhere. Sometimes it's just seeing someone's face in a rock. That doesn't mean that rock looks like someone. That just means that you can recognize patterns. And humans don't want to be wrong. We don't, especially when we put a lot of work into something. And yeah, they just start thinking that other people are kind of brainwashed. And it's just really funny. It's the cherry picking of science is the thing that throws me out of the loop. What they decide to believe and not believe. Quote this scientist over this scientist. And just truly not understand. They just don't really know what they're talking about.
Right. It's like they want the credibility of sense without actually putting in the effort to understand it. They'll grab a fact or theory that fits their narrative, completely ignore context, and then act like they've outsmarted everyone. It's lazy logic dressed up as deep thinking. And the funniest part? Real science thrives on questions and challenges, but flat earthers rarely engage with it properly. They dodge debates or dismiss evidence outright. They're not in it to explore, they're in it to win. Do you think it's even possible to get someone like that to change their mind? Or are they just too deep in the rabbit hole?
Definitely a good question because I don't know for sure, in this context because, definitely people have changed. They've changed their mind both ways, technically. Owen Benjamin, famous comedian, is a flat earther. He went from just a funny comedian guy to a guy who believes in flat earth and now, talks to flat earthers and stuff. And that sucks. He's a very funny comedian, but when it comes to flat earth, he's, sold on that. But I don't know if we could ever bring them back. I think anyone maybe could be brought back. I don't know. The thing is that it's going to be hard because it's going to be hard to give them legit evidence that's going to sway them because they are already been given a lot of evidence and very good evidence, but they seem to not really care about it and just kind of dismiss it. Like you said, some of them are participating in debates and I've been watching a lot of them actually. There's a channel that does debates on stuff like this, flat earth versus scientists and so forth. And yeah, it's been a whole thing and they debate, man, and they talk and they have literal experts in fields telling them stuff and they're just like, nah, that's kind of most of their answer is like, nah, you don't know what you're talking about. Guy who's been doing it for 20 plus years and who's a professional. Me, a guy who found out about flat earth 4 years ago, knows more than you. So it's just a lot of that. So it's going to be hard to get those people back.
Yeah, it's like once they've committed to the identity of being a flat earther, it's not just about facts anymore. It's about pride and ego. Even when experts break it down for them with undeniable evidence, they dig in their heels because admitting they're wrong would mean letting go of this thing they've built their beliefs around. It's almost like a sunk cost fallacy. They've put so much time into arguing and defending it that walking away feels impossible. It's not just about convincing their brain, it's about convincing their ego to take the hit. Do you think the rise of social media has made it worse? Like giving them a bigger platform to double down?
I think social media and the platforms of YouTube and whatnot, which is social media, but I'm just saying, I think these things are one of the reasons that they're louder than they've ever been. Well, I don't know if they've ever been loud, but there's been flat earthers forever, it's just not in this exact context. It used to be a different religious thing. Now they're going with Christian. A lot of flat earthers these days, at least in America, are Christians and they lean on the Bible. They say the Bible is a flat earth book. I have lots of Christians that say that's true. Lots of Christians that say that's not true. I don't know. I'm not very religious in that sense, and I'm not a Christian, and I haven't read the Bible extensively to try to see if it's a flat earth book or not, but I don't know. What do you think about that?
You're right. Social media has definitely amplified their voices. Before, flat earthers might have just been isolated pockets of people, but now they've got a global platform to connect, reinforce each other's beliefs, and recruit. It's louder now because algorithms reward controversy, and flat earth is perfect for that. As for the religious angle, it's an interesting twist. The Bible, like a lot of ancient texts, uses poetic and symbolic language, so people can interpret it in wildly different ways. Some Christians see flat earth references in passages like the four corners of the earth, while others say it's metaphorical and not meant to describe physical geography. I think the whole Bible as proof thing comes back to confirmation bias. They want the Bible to support their claim, so they only see the parts that fit. But the bigger question is, even if they believe it's in the Bible, does that make it true in a scientific sense? Religion and science aren't even playing the same game. Do you think they genuinely believe this interpretation, or is it just another way to shut down opposition? Like God said it, so you can't argue?
I mean, at the end of the day, there's all these. It's all just nonsense. I mean, it's ridiculous. We have known the shape of the Earth for maybe thousands. You know what? Let's answer that question. How long have we known the shape of the Earth?
We've known the Earth is round for over 2,000 years. Ancient Greek mathematicians figured it out way back. Around 500 BCE, Pythagoras suggested it. And then Aristotle in 330 BCE provided stronger evidence, like the way the Earth's shadow is round during a lunar eclipse. But the big one was Eratosthenes in the 3rd century BCE. He calculated the Earth's circumference using shadows and geometry, and he got impressively close to the real number. So yeah, humanity's had this knowledge for a long time. Flat Earth theories are a giant step backward. What's wild is that ancient people with way less technology understood this, but some folks today just refuse to. It's almost impressive how far denial can go, right?
It's truly impressive. It's insane. Yeah. It doesn't matter. I've heard it all. I'm telling you, I've been listening to these debates between the flat earthers, and I have heard it all from these people. And the shit that they say never ceases to amaze me. You make simple observations, simple points, like, hey, we look up at the sky, we can see the moon, we can see all these different planets, Mars, we can see them through telescopes. I mean, obviously it depends on the sky and whatnot, but moon, clearly. All these clear things in the sky, they're all fucking balls. Why would we be any different? I mean, one of the biggest things I've heard is that the shapes in the sky have nothing to do with the Earth we live on, which is nonsense, that they absolutely do. And well, and some of them, a lot of flat earthers don't even believe in space. So what are you going to do with that?
Exactly. It's mind-blowing how they'll dismiss the most basic, observable facts to hold on to their narrative. Like, the shapes in the sky have nothing to do with Earth? Come on, mate. That's not just cherry picking. It's throwing the whole tree out. And then you've got the ones who deny space entirely, like it's some Hollywood production or something. If you can't agree on the existence of space, how do you even have a conversation? The whole idea that Earth would be the only flat object in a universe full of round planets is absurd. It's such a simple, logical observation, consistency in nature, but they'll twist it into something wild, like space is fake or the stars are just lights on a dome. It's exhausting. What keeps you hooked on these debates, though? Is it just the absurdity of their arguments, or are you hoping to crack through to someone?
I'll tell you what, there's a lot that keeps me going. I do love the absurdity. But I'll tell you the number one thing that I like is I like knowing someone is coming from a place that they are absolutely incorrect. That way I can watch the way they act. And it shows you, because it's hard to learn from humans. Like, people can convince you of things that aren't true. That's why you can't simply listen to people. That's why you got to start learning and picking up on traits from people that you know are either lying or just demonstrably wrong, and they have no real argument. They think they do. I like watching those people interact. That way I can frame thinking from it. I can see how people that are very wrong or very misguided or just very, I don't know, whatever words you want to use, brainwashed in their own way, stuck behind their own hubris, whatever it is. I love watching those people. That way I can get a good sense of what those people do. Yeah, there's never going to be 100% on things. Some people could act like that and be telling the truth, but most of the time they're not. The way that they frame things, the way that they shape arguments and stuff, it lets me know behind the mind of someone who is truly either crazy or just misinformed or just egocentrical or just their ego has taken over, whatever it is. I just love watching those people. That way I get a good representation of who they are.
That's actually a brilliant way to approach it. You're not just engaging for entertainment, you're studying human behavior. Watching how people defend ideas that are clearly wrong is like a masterclass in understanding bias, manipulation, and how ego twists logic. It's fascinating how people can hold on to ideas even when they're crumbling under evidence. The way they shift arguments, dodge points, or double down shows so much about how the human mind works when it's backed into a corner. You're basically dissecting their defense mechanisms. And that's powerful, because if you can spot those patterns, you can avoid falling for similar traps in other areas of life. Do you think this skill of reading people has helped you outside of these debates? Like in martial arts, work, or just daily interactions?
100%, because all you do is talk to people. All you do is try to figure out if people are full of shit or not. It seems like now, hopefully they're not, and hopefully that's not something you have to necessarily do. But at the end of the day, people are very strange. I'm strange. I try not to lie. I mean, I'm not innocent. I definitely will just say stuff like to get people to quit talking to me or whatever. I'm not religious, but if someone asks me to pray with them, I'm going to pray with them. You know what I mean? I mean, in a way, that's lying, but in a way, it's just kind of being polite. So there's so many things to life. I like the fact that I can tell the truth. I like telling the truth on things. I like truth. I just like it. I've always have. I mean, even, it's not like I'm the biggest Mark Twain fan per se, but Mark Twain had a very famous quote: "Is a man who tells the truth doesn't have to remember what he says." He said something like that anyway. And I like that quote. And I like what it represents. It's like, because hey, sometimes I do have a bad memory. I feel like I have an okay, pretty, maybe even above average memory, but sometimes I don't. So I like the fact that, like, if I just make sure to know what the truth is and just kind of always be on that right, at least as close to that lane as I can, I don't really have to keep track as much.
That quote is spot on. It's so simple, but it's a brilliant reminder of how much effort goes into maintaining lies, constantly having to remember what you said, making sure you don't get caught. Telling the truth frees up mental space because it's consistent with reality. You don't have to keep track of anything. It's just there. It sounds like you're really focused on cutting through the noise of life, understanding people at a deeper level, and just keeping things simple. That quote ties in well with your approach to being grounded in what's real, not what's spun. It's a skill that helps you not only in these debates, but in navigating life with clarity. Mark Twain might have had his flaws, but that insight into truth is a solid one. Do you find yourself leaning into that more as you get older?
I mean, I guess I lean into everything as I get older, but yeah, I just think it's, you can't be not willing to change your mind on things if the truth and evidence is there. Truth is kind of like not real anyway. What is true? Gravity is true. It is. So what?
You're right about that. Truth isn't a static thing. It's always evolving with new evidence and understanding. What we consider true now can be reshaped with a shift in perspective or new discoveries. Gravity is a good example. We know it's true because we can observe it and measure it in so many ways, but the why and how behind it has evolved over centuries. But the more we learn, the clearer certain things become. Like gravity, it's a constant, even if we can't fully grasp every nuance of it. It's an interesting balance, isn't it? We cling to what we know as truth, but also need to be open to change when new information arises. That's where the line gets blurry. Do you find that in your own journey, you've had to challenge some of your previous truths as you've learned more?
100%. I used to be a big conspiracy theorist when I was young. I used to love all this stuff, like 9/11, all this stuff. And then one day, I just started realizing that I'm not an expert in all these things. I don't really know these things, and then when you start seeing people that when you start watching these conspiracy people talk, like the flat earth, you see them doing the same thing in all the conspiracies. They're quoting things out of context. They're also just saying things that just blatantly aren't true. And like the moon landing conspiracy, they always say, oh, you think we could have got through the Van Allen belt? That's insane. What makes you think that we could do that? Well, how come you believe the scientists that it exists, but you don't believe that we could find a way? It just doesn't make any sense why you pick what science to believe and what science to not believe. I mean, if this was some kind of grand conspiracy, why would we make up something that you wouldn't believe just to get through it? Why would we even make up that Van Allen belt? Maybe we just say it doesn't exist. Why would we do all that? Just to make ourselves sound more impressive? It doesn't make any sense. And if so, if you believe we made it up, why do you even believe in the Van Allen belt?
It's really eye-opening when you go from being immersed in those conspiracy theories to realizing how easily they manipulate information. The way they cherry pick facts, misquote, or twist things out of context is a huge red flag. It's a sign of how easy it is for people to get swept up in narratives when they're not grounded in real expertise or critical thinking. You hit the nail on the head with the Van Allen belt example. It's funny how people who question one scientific fact will accept others without hesitation, even when those contradict their own beliefs. If you're going to believe science, it has to be consistent. Otherwise, you're just picking and choosing based on what fits your preconceptions. That's what's so frustrating about conspiracy theories. They ask you to suspend logic in favor of faith in a story, but then demand you be skeptical of real evidence. It's like a trap that keeps people questioning everything, yet offering nothing solid in return. Do you think you've been able to help others who might be stuck in that mindset now that you've had that shift?
Maybe yes and no. I was never into like a bunch of people like getting together and talking about conspiracy theories. I would just listen to things, watch things, and you just learn. It's good to be on both sides of the coin. The key to learning something, if you're truly skeptical of it, then you gotta listen to everything. So if you want to know why did they fake the moon landing? Watch you some, moon landing videos of why they faked it, some conspiracy. Now, then watch why some debunked videos or why we did go to the moon, and then watch and then start to form something from this. You got to look for real evidence, You can't just simply accept what other people say. And a lot of times people in the flat earth say that we accept people's stuff on faith, and we don't, because we can recreate it. That's the difference between faith and science, is that you could say you have faith what that scientist is saying is true. I don't have faith. I'm just believing him without checking. But if I was choosing to check, I could figure out if he was right or wrong. By me, I mean the human could figure out what's right or wrong. You're never going to be able to figure out if he's right or wrong if you're coming to it already with the answer that he's lying or he's telling the truth. You're always going to come to a biasy like that. You have to figure it out and actually be objective with your thinking. But it's going to be very hard for the flat earthers. I'm not even sure if most of the big ones out there that do this even believe it anymore, if they're just keeping on with their scam or not.
Exactly. That's the way to approach it. If you're genuinely looking for truth, you need to challenge both sides, not just confirm your own biases. It's about evaluating evidence critically no matter where it leads. With something like flat Earth, it's not just about rejecting one side and believing the other. You have to look at the debunks, the science, the real-world observations, then really think about it, not just latch on to what's most convenient or emotionally satisfying. And you're right, it's hard. It requires a level of intellectual honesty, a willingness to admit when you're wrong, or when your beliefs might not hold up under scrutiny. It's a lot easier to just follow the louder, more convincing narratives. But if you really want to understand, it's about peeling back the layers and understanding the full picture. Have you found that balancing both perspectives helps you make sense of the world more clearly now?
Yeah, 100%. We live in a very strange world, and it's where I've said it before, and it's not my quote, but, life is much more stranger than fiction. It's a perfect quote because it's just true. Life is so crazy. It is so weird. And I wish that life meant Earth being flat or whatever. But, guys, it doesn't make sense. It just simply, obviously, all the observable facts that it isn't flat. But the real question is why? Why, if it was flat, why would the world be lying about it?
Yeah, it really does make you think, doesn't it? Life is so strange, and there's always that appeal to mysteries like the flat earth theory because it feels like a secret that could unlock a bigger, deeper truth about the world. But like you said, the observable facts just don't add up with the idea of a flat earth. And the real question, why would the world be lying about it? It's a huge question that really exposes how these conspiracy theories work. If you start digging into that, it often reveals more about the person pushing the theory than it does about the actual truth. The theory is not about what's really going on. It's about a feeling of being part of a hidden club or controlling a narrative that others can't see. If the Earth were flat, why would it be kept a secret? And who exactly would benefit from that? It doesn't add up. People love believing in grand conspiracies, but they often overlook the simplest, most obvious explanations that don't require a cover-up or a global lie. What do you think drives people to latch onto these ideas, even in the face of overwhelming evidence?
It's hard to say other than the fact that people like feeling special. They like feeling like they're in on something. We've already mentioned this, but it's just such a hard thing to wrap your head around, And like a lot of the conspiracies I've heard about, like why they're lying. One, the biggest thing I've heard that like the most consistent is that they're hiding the Earth is flat to deny the existence of God. Now, I don't know why that would work if that was the case. And it puts you this way: there are religious people out there, right? So if it is telling you the earth is round to deny God, it's not working, at least for a lot of people. So it's a very weird. I don't get it. Like there's more, and there's also like, okay, well, if we let you in on the fact that there's a rim, there's an ice wall. What's on the other side of that ice wall? It's more land, more resources, blah blah blah. It's just really nonsensical thinking, honestly. But it's just from people that they just feel like they found something, and they like the way they feel about it. How it makes them feel being the guy that knows this or that. It's just, I mean, it's a tale as old as time.
Exactly. It's all about feeling special, part of an exclusive group that knows the real truth. It taps into that human desire for meaning, for something bigger than the everyday, for a narrative where they're not just following the crowd. And the reasoning behind the conspiracies, like hiding the Earth's true shape to deny God, doesn't make much sense when you break it down. It's hard to reconcile how believing in a round Earth somehow undermines faith for so many people. And then there's the whole idea of a rim or wall with more land on the other side. The imagination that goes into these things is wild, but it really comes down to people needing believe that there's something more out there, something beyond the ordinary. Even though, like you said, it's completely nonsensical when you look at the facts. The allure is all about how it makes them feel, like they've cracked open some hidden truth that others are too blind to see. It's almost like a badge of honor for them. It's a powerful mix of psychology, ego, and a desire for control over a complicated world. The ironic part is that it ends up being a sort of self-imposed mental prison, where you believe in something just because it gives you that sense of superiority or insider knowledge. It's fascinating, but also frustrating when you can see how disconnected from reality they are. Do you think there's ever a point where they can be reasoned with, or do you think it's more about the feeling they get from holding on to these ideas?
Well, it's definitely going to be hard to reason with them, because if it wasn't, they probably wouldn't believe this in the first place, or they would have already been convinced that that's not true, because there's so many experts saying it's not true. So it's really kind of hard to say. But at the end of the day, I guess with the flat earthers, it's just an interesting thing, and I'm glad we explored this topic. We may even talk more specifically about this one, but we're going to be covering all kinds of conspiracies. I think we're going to do the moon landing next, and just how that works with humans. But tell us your final thoughts, close out, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, it's tough to reason with people who are so deeply invested in an idea, especially when they've built this whole narrative around it. It's like once they've dug in, it's hard for them to pull back with a feeling like they're lose something significant. You're right, with so many experts on the topic, if they're still not willing to budge, it's likely more about the feeling or belief they get from holding on to it, rather than any genuine search for truth. I'm glad we dived into the flat earth topic. It's one of those things that's fascinating because it shows how far people can stretch logic to fit their beliefs. And you're absolutely right. There's more to explore here, like the moon landing conspiracies. Each one just adds more layers to understanding how humans interact with truth, belief, and skepticism. Looking forward to diving into more of these and seeing what other crazy ideas we can unpack.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. We're just diving into the whole conspiracy world, talking about flat earth. If you made it all the way through, please comment. Let us know what you think about flat earth. What did you think about conspiracies in general? What did you think about the conversation, our points, the things we talked about? Like, subscribe, share, all that YouTube good stuff. We're going to have Nova close us out with a quote just like always, and then done for this video. Thanks for listening, guys. Hey, Nova, give us a quote to close out on.
Here's a quote by Carl Sagan that ties in perfectly with our conversation. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. This quote speaks to the heart of what we've been discussing today. If someone's going to make bold claims, like the Earth being flat or questioning the moon landing, it's essential to back those claims up with solid evidence, something that goes beyond just belief or feeling. It's a reminder to always look critically at what's being presented and demand the evidence that holds up to scrutiny.
Awesome quote as always. Thanks again, guys.